I want you to try something, just for a second. Right now, wherever you are listening to this, I want you to imagine stepping completely away from your daily grind.
Just mentally slamming the laptop shut.
Exactly. Like, silence the 7 alarms on your phone, put down whatever project is currently living rent-free in your head, and just step out the door.
It's a surprisingly powerful feeling, isn't it?
It really is. I mean, that urge to just drop everything and disconnect, it's universally human. How exactly do we do it? Like, what are the actual mechanics of stepping away from our lives?
Right, the logistics of actually resting.
Yeah. So today, let's talk about vacation. This deep dive is built around a fascinating framework we've been looking at. It actually centers on a conversational guide exploring the whole concept of the vacation. And it features these 2 archetypal travelers, Lena and Jass, who help map out this entire journey.
And I mean, it really is a journey. On the surface, the material we are diving into looks like just a practical guide to the phases of taking a trip, like planning, navigating the airport, returning home.
Right, the basic steps.
But when you look at the sequence of events it lays out, it actually maps out the complete psychological and physical transformation required to leave our everyday lives behind. We are talking about the profound shift in human behavior that has to happen before you can even think about relaxing.
I am so glad you used the word required, because our mission today is to, really pull apart the complete anatomy of a vacation based on this framework.
Oh, absolutely.
We are going to trace the entire arc for you, from that bizarre initial impulse to leave our comfortable beds, to the distinct lack of control we experience at the airport, all the way to the physical objects we insist on dragging back home with us.
It's way more than just travel logistics.
Exactly. We are examining the human need to disconnect and the specific, almost ritualistic steps we take to force our brains to finally power down.
It really is a ritual. And the foundational premise we are working from starts with a very strict definition of what a vacation actually is.
Which is what? Exactly.
Well, it frames it as a distinct, bounded period of time where we deliberately sever ties with work, school, or daily responsibilities. The core drivers are laid out pretty clearly. We travel to seek novel experiences, dramatically reduce our baseline stress, and, generate a new set of memories that we can use to sustain us when we inevitably have to return.
Okay, hold on though. I have to call out what seems like a massive, glaring contradiction in how this whole concept is framed.
Oh, what do you mean?
Well, the stated goal is to reduce stress and take a break from responsibilities, right?
Right.
But then the very first phase of the process it outlines is the planning phase. And I mean, let's be honest, the reality of planning is intense. You are suddenly dealing with budgeting, finding money you didn't know you had, synchronizing schedules, researching geography.
It's a lot of work.
It's so much work. If the entire point of a vacation is to escape stress, why is our instinct to immediately take on the incredibly stressful new job of amateur travel agent? It honestly feels like spending 6 months building a structurally engineered, steel-reinforced scaffold, pouring concrete foundations, and arguing over architectural blueprints.
Just to hang a hammock?
Yes. Just so you can string up a hammock in the middle of it all and take a nap. It makes no sense.
I love that. The hammock analogy gets right to the heart of the psychology here. You are pointing out the friction, but, the friction is actually the mechanism.
Wait, what do you mean the friction is the mechanism?
It's a profound quirk of human psychology that the framework captures beautifully. The break is not something that passively happens to us. I mean, you cannot just command your brain to relax on a random Tuesday.
Sure.
The relief, that actual reduction of cortisol, only seems to trigger because of the deliberate, effortful pivot you made to get there. You are essentially trading your chronic, everyday stress, the kind that wears you down because it has no end date, for acute, goal-oriented stress.
Oh, wow. So you are saying the stress of booking flights is actually a feature, not a bug.
Precisely. Because chronic stress is ambiguous, right? Will this project at work ever end? Will I ever get ahead on my mortgage?
Right, it's just this endless hum in the background.
Exactly. But the stress of saving money for a trip and organizing an itinerary is finite. It has a defined endpoint, which is the departure date. You are engineering a contrast. Think about it. Have you ever tried to take a staycation? You take a week off work, but stay in your house. What usually happens?
Oh, I end up finally cleaning out the garage, doing 5 loads of laundry, and fixing that weird hinge on the cabinet. I somehow work harder on a staycation than I do at my actual job.
Exactly. Because all the environmental cues of your daily responsibilities are still staring you in the face.
Yeah, the laundry basket doesn't care that I'm on PTO.
Right. The framework we are analyzing defines a vacation through physical and mental contrast. You cannot achieve the mandated relaxation without first putting in the grueling work to forcefully eject yourself from your normal environment.
So we basically have to earn the right to do nothing. We are engineering our own escape hatch.
Yeah, that's a perfect way to put it.
And once you save the money and drafted the plans, you hit the moment where you have to choose your environment. You are moving from the dream into reality.
In exploring where people go, we see these 4 distinct archetypes of escape in the guide: beach vacations, mountain trips, city tours, and camping adventures.
And those 4 aren't just random destinations. They represent the primary methods humans use to manipulate their own mental states.
How so?
Well, if you choose the beach, you are seeking sensory simplification. The repetitive sound of waves, the static horizon, it's about lowering your cognitive load.
Just staring at a flat line of water.
Exactly. But if you choose the mountains, you are looking for scale and physical exertion to humble yourself, to put your daily worries into perspective.
Making yourself feel small.
Right. And city tours provide high-density cultural stimulation, swapping out your mundane routine for novelty and wonder. And then camping. Camping is the ultimate reset button. Oh yeah, returning to the wild.
It forces a return to fundamental survival simplicity, where your biggest problem isn't a flooded inbox, but rather figuring out how to boil water.
That makes perfect sense. We are prescribing ourselves different environments based on what our brain needs to recover. But regardless of whether you are trying to stare at an ocean or figure out a tent pole, you have to pack your bags.
The dreaded packing phase.
And looking at the packing phase, there's a fascinating inclusion. Alongside the obvious survival items, clothes, the passport, there is a massive emphasis on bringing a camera. Why does the camera get elevated to the same critical tier as the government-issued identification document?
This gets into the philosophy of why we travel in the first place. Go back to that initial definition of a vacation we talked about. One of the primary directives is to create beautiful memories.
Right.
We pack the camera because it serves as the validation tool for the entire endeavor. Without a way to document the trip, the experience remains entirely internal and subjective.
Like, did it even happen if I didn't take a picture of it?
Essentially, yes. The camera captures the tangible proof that you successfully executed the escape plan. It proves you found the beach, you saw the mountain, and you successfully stepped away from your inbox.
It's the receipt for the vacation. We need the proof that the relaxation actually occurred. So our bags are packed, the camera batteries are charged, we have our passport, and then we hit the airport.
Ah, the airport.
I have to tell you, whenever I look at the reality of modern travel, the airport acts as this ultimate, unavoidable toll booth of anxiety. You are forced to pass through it to reach the promised land of your vacation.
It's rough.
You hear phrases like, "Where's the check-in counter? Take off your shoes," and the universally dreaded, "Your flight is delayed." I mean, how does sitting on a carpeted floor near gate C42 while eating a stale pretzel do anything but instantly destroy that foundational goal of reducing stress?
Well, the airport is the ultimate psychological pressure test. What you're describing is the experience of a liminal space.
A liminal space.
Yeah, you have successfully left the comfort and control of your own home, but you have not yet reached the sanctuary of your destination. You are stuck in the threshold. And in that threshold, you surrender all of your bodily autonomy.
Oh, absolutely.
You eat when the terminal restaurants are open, you move when the security line moves, and your entire fate is dictated by a scrolling digital screen.
It is a total loss of control. You go from the triumphant feeling of locking your front door and saying, "I am on vacation," to immediately asking a TSA agent for permission to keep a bottle of water in your bag.
It's a stark emotional whiplash. But psychologically, that surrender is often a necessary precursor to true relaxation.
Really? How does giving up control help us relax?
By forcing you through a system where you have zero control over schedules or logistics, the airport strips away your illusion of control. You can't manage a delayed flight the way you manage a work project. You just have to sit there.
You literally just have to wait.
Right, and once you accept that powerlessness, you are actually shedding the final layers of your everyday responsibility. The bureaucratic nightmare of the airport is basically the airlock you pass through to decompress.
The airlock,
Yes.
I love that. You are equalizing the pressure between your work life and your vacation life.
Exactly.
But while we are sitting in that airlock hoping our flight boards eventually, our expectations are often doing battle with reality. We are caught in this bizarre tug of war between the harsh limitations of our wallets and the boundless nature of our fantasies.
And this is where the archetypal characters in our framework, Lena and Jass, become so relatable. The material brilliantly illustrates the duality of the modern traveler.
Yeah, the dream versus reality.
Right. On one side, you have the dream vacation. Lena is picturing herself completely isolated on a pristine, beautiful island. Jass envisions this expansive, culturally rich journey exploring multiple foreign countries. They represent our highest aspirations, the absolute peak of the escapist and the explorer mentalities.
Right. But immediately crashing into those beautiful dreams is the deeply pragmatic advice we all have to follow. Things like scouring the internet for off-season discounts, tracking hotel prices on a Tuesday night, and meticulously balancing an expense sheet.
The reality check.
It is such a wild dichotomy. It feels like we are constantly trying to reconcile our inner billionaire explorer with our reality as a middle-class accountant. Do you think constantly monitoring the budget ruins the escapism?
Not necessarily. I think it's better to think of the dream as the engine and the budget as the steering wheel.
Oh, that's an interesting way to look at it.
We all possess that inner Lena or Jass. We want the boundless experience, but the constraints of the budget actually shape the memory. When you have to hunt for the off-season discount, you are forced to make choices about what actually matters to you.
Right. You have to prioritize.
Does Lena need a 5-star resort, or does she just need to see the ocean? Does Jass need a first-class flight to Europe, or can he find a rich cultural experience a few states over?
So the limit forces you to focus.
Exactly. The limitations force creativity, and often it's the compromises we make to stay within budget that end up becoming the most memorable parts of the trip. The tiny, off-the-beaten-path restaurant you found because the main tourist spot was too expensive usually ends up being the highlight.
That rings so true. The constraint creates the character of the trip. So let's fast forward. We've planned it. We've navigated the airlock of the airport. We've lived out some budget-constrained version of our island or cultural dream. And then the trip ends. What happens when we come back home? How do we encapsulate that experience and fold it back into our daily lives?
Well, the framework addresses this by focusing heavily on the language of reflection. It highlights how we immediately begin constructing a narrative. We say things like, the weather was wonderful, I visited beautiful places, and I spent great time with my family. Notice how curated that sounds.
Yeah, it's totally an exercise in selective memory.
Completely.
We are editing the movie of our trip in real time. We don't come back to the office and say, I got a terrible sunburn, we fought about directions for 2 hours in a rental car, and the hotel bed gave me a backache. We say, the beach was stunning.
Exactly, because we are engaging our remembering self. The psychologist Daniel Kahneman famously distinguished between the experiencing self,
Oh, right.
the one who actually lives through the delayed flights and the sunburns, and the remembering self, the one who crafts the story afterward.
And the remembering self is the one that gets to keep the vacation.
Yes. And the language we use to describe it dictates how we will remember it years from now.
That focus on language actually brings me to a realization I had while reviewing the end of this framework. There is a core vocabulary list designed to capture the essence of a vacation. And I started looking at the sequence of these words, and I realized it isn't just a random glossary.
Oh.
If you look at the concepts chronologically, they actually tell the entire story of the psychological journey we've been talking about.
Walk me through your interpretation of that arc. Like, how does the vocabulary map the journey?
Well, think about the evolution of the concepts. It starts broadly with the idea of a vacation or a trip. Then, as you commit to it, it deepens into a journey.
Okay, I see where you're going.
You physically relocate and adopt this entirely new temporary identity as a tourist. You establish your temporary home base at a hotel, and you immerse yourself in your chosen environment, whether that's the beach or the mountain.
Right, the environments we discussed earlier.
Exactly. You survive the logistical hurdles of your luggage and your flight. And only after navigating all of that do you finally arrive at the ultimate states: adventure and relaxation.
It tracks perfectly with the idea of the airlock and the earned rest. You don't get to the words adventure or relaxation without passing through luggage and flight first.
Yes. And then the sequence culminates in one final fascinating concept. After you have achieved the relaxation and done the sightseeing, the very last conceptual anchor of the trip is the souvenir.
The perfect punctuation mark to the whole endeavor. Let's really look at the souvenir because it ties everything together. A souvenir is objectively a strange concept.
It really is.
We go to a beautiful, serene location, and our instinct is to buy a mass-produced piece of plastic, or a strangely carved wooden bowl, or, a neon t-shirt that we will never actually wear in our real life. Why do we do this?
I am so guilty of this. I have a tiny ceramic lighthouse sitting on my desk right now that made total sense when I bought it in a gift shop at Sunset, but looks completely absurd next to my computer monitor.
It looks absurd because it is out of context, but its function isn't aesthetic. Its function is psychological. The souvenir is the physical anchor for the remembering self we just talked about.
So it's like a 3D version of the camera.
Exactly. It's the tangible 3D version of the photographs on your camera. We know, deep down, that the memories of the relaxation and the adventure will eventually fade. The chronic stress of daily life will creep back in. The souvenir sits on your desk as a physical artifact proving that the journey happened. It's a totem that says, "For 1 week, I was Lena on the island," or "For 1 week, I was Jass exploring the world." It is physical evidence that you are capable of stepping away.
It's the ultimate proof of life for our vacation self. That is a brilliantly elegant way to summarize the whole experience. So to recap the anatomy of vacation as we've pulled it apart today, it all begins with that necessary, almost desperate urge to escape the chronic hum of our daily responsibilities.
And we don't just fall into relaxation, we have to construct it.
Exactly. We take on the acute stress of financial planning and logistical organization. We willingly enter the powerless liminal space of the airport to strip away our illusion of control. We balance our grandest escapist dreams against the sobering reality of our bank accounts.
It's a massive cycle.
It is. And finally, we arrive at the aftermath. We edit the narrative, we print the pictures, and we place that slightly ridiculous ceramic souvenir on our desk to prove to ourselves that the escape was real.
It is an exhausting but completely vital human cycle, and understanding this cycle helps reframe the friction we experience. The packing, the budgeting, the agonizing wait at the luggage carousel, they aren't failures of the vacation. They are the very mechanisms that make the relaxation possible. The contrast is the cure.
The contrast is the cure. I love that. But before we wrap up today's deep dive, I want to leave you, the listener, with a final thought to mull over. We've talked extensively about the heavy emphasis on documentation, the cameras, the photos, the souvenirs.
Right.
And we've established that the fundamental definition of a vacation is to take a break from our daily jobs and responsibilities. But consider this. Does the intense modern pressure to document the trip, like constantly framing the perfect photo, hunting for the ideal souvenir, and ensuring we gather enough digital evidence to prove to everyone back home that we had an amazing time, does that actually create a brand new, exhausting job while we are away?
Oh, that's a great question.
Have we just replaced our office responsibilities with the responsibility of being our own travel publicist? The next time you finally get that metaphorical hammock strung up and you finally lie back to look at the view, ask yourself, are you actually resting in it, or are you just trying to get the perfect picture to prove you were there?